Welcome back. Today, we're deconstructing a rare celestial boundary condition that signals a pretty violent repricing in the industrial commodity sector. We're talking specifically about copper, and we're going to dig into the deep architecture of this potential move.
Right off the bat, let's get straight to the point. $14,110. That's the number. This is the specific price target at the heart of this entire analysis, and as you'll see, it's not a random guess. There's a whole system behind it. So what does that number actually mean for the market right now? Well, as of January 15th, 2026, copper is trading at a reference point of about $13,050. This forecast points to a minimum 8.1% upside appreciation, and the real kicker? The analysis says it's all going to happen before the end of this month.
Now, let's be absolutely clear about where this is coming from. This is not your typical technical analysis or a speculative wager. This is a calculated derivation based on Medini Jyotish, or mundane astrology. The whole thing is triggered by the planet Mars moving into the sign of Capricorn. We're talking about a convergence of celestial mechanics and industrial valuation.
Okay, so to really grasp the velocity of this move, we've got to zoom out and look at the macro celestial architecture. The energetic substrate of the market is shifting in a big way, and it's all because of a massive alignment of planets. What we're entering is what's known as a Panchagrahi Yoga. It's a really powerful 5-planet conjunction, all happening in a single house of the zodiac. And in this case, that house is Capricorn.
And check out the lineup. We're talking about the Sun, which represents government authority, Mars, the engine of industrial energy, Mercury, driving commerce and algorithmic flow, Venus, which governs asset valuation, and even the Moon, reflecting market sentiment. You've all these heavy hitters converging in one place.
So why is this a big deal for copper? Well, in this system, Capricorn represents the knees of the Kalapurusha. You can think of it as the structural foundation of the entire economy. When all this energy rotates into Capricorn, capital flees speculative assets and grounds itself in real stuff: metals, infrastructure, defense hardware. You know, the mud and mortar of the economy, where copper is basically the nervous system.
All right, so within this 5-planet pileup, there's one primary driver, one main catalyst that's expected to kick the whole thing off, and that catalyst is the planet Mars.
Circle this date on your calendar, January 16th, 2026. This is when Mars enters Capricorn. Astrologically, this is its sign of exaltation, its Ucha state. This is Mars at its absolute peak performance. Think of it like a planet on steroids.
But here's where a lot of people might get tripped up. At the same time, Mars is also combust, which just means it's super close to the sun in the sky. So a natural question is, doesn't that proximity to the sun's glare make it weak?
And this is where we separate the novice mistake from the expert view. In mundane financial astrology, this condition is actually incorrect to view as a weakness. It doesn't mean weakness. It creates something called thermal inflation.
So what is thermal inflation? It's the core concept here. The idea is that the intense heat of the sun literally transfers to the commodity that Mars represents, in this case, copper. The asset itself becomes hot, and that symbolic heat is what drives the price up, and fast.
So how does this hot condition actually show up in the real-world market? It plays out in 2 very specific ways. First, you get state appropriation. Think governments stockpiling copper for defense or green energy mandates. Second, you get scarcity. It's like the sun is literally burning away the available inventory.
So we've got the why, this massive planetary convergence, and we've got the what, the thermal inflation that makes copper a hot commodity. But what about the when? How is the exact timing determined? Well, for that, we have to go deeper into a tool called the Sarvatobhadra Chakra. The timing mechanism here is something called a Veda. The best way to think of it is like a piercing aspect, like a cosmic sniper shot from one celestial body to another specific point in the sky. And a Veda is believed to have the power to just shatter stability and trigger major events. So in our scenario, this supercharged, exalted Mars is firing off 2 key Vedas. The first is a front Veda, hitting the star Pushya, which is associated with market stability. So Mars is basically shattering that calm and forcing a breakout. At the same time, it casts a left Veda on the star Magha, which represents stockpiles. This points directly to a sudden warehouse shock or a squeeze on inventories. And when you combine these 2 Vedas, the effect is described as the lata, or the kick of Mars. It's this sudden, violent, forceful move that's predicted to trap anyone betting against copper. forcing them to cover their short positions and just adding fuel to the fire. Okay, we've got all the pieces on the board. We've looked at the mechanics. So now, let's lay out the chronological sequence of events. The source material provides a really clear 2-week roadmap for exactly how this is all expected to unfold. It all starts on January 16th. That's the ignition, when Mars enters Capricorn. Then, right after, on the 17th and 18th, Mercury and the Moon join the party. And that's when we should see a massive surge in volume. From the 20th to the 28th, the squeeze really gets going, probably lining up with news about supply shocks. And it all culminates by the end of January with the price hitting that target. So after all that, what's the big takeaway here? How do we connect this really complex astrological framework to what's actually happening on the ground? Honestly, this quote from the source material just sums it up perfectly. The fundamentals for copper are already there, right? AI data centers, the green energy transition, all that stuff tells us that copper will eventually rise. What this astrological analysis claims to do is tell us when. And this is the number the analysis leaves us with, a 92% confidence score. It's a bold claim for sure. It frames this celestial event not as some vague possibility, but as a high probability trigger for a huge market move. So, I guess the final question is, are the stars really aligning for a massive breakout in copper?